Welcome to another episode of the And Now I Know podcast. I'm your host, 32 Flavazz, and I'm here to inspire you to live life at your fullest potential. If you're looking for a podcast that's going to inspire you to chase your dreams, motivate you to get up each and every day, and help you navigate life just a little bit better, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on any streaming platform, be sure to hit that follow button and don't forget to download this episode. Welcome back to our second episode of 2026. I'm so excited to be chatting with you guys. And this episode is really for my ladies, for real. I mean, if you're a man and you're listening to this, cool. But this episode is for my ladies. And I want to have some real talk. So, let me just clarify. This episode is for my real women. Okay? I want to have some real grown woman talk. My birthday is coming up in a couple weeks. And so I'm really in my grown woman era. I hate to make things so cliche, but I just want to keep it real, you know? And so on this episode, as you can see from the title, it is called Know Your Worth and Add Tax. Okay? I want to get real down to the nitty gritty. I hope this episode inspires, motivates, uplifts women. This episode is really going to help you understand the power of your worth. Because sometimes you might not have had that big sister. You probably didn't have that friend. Maybe you didn't have that mother, that grandma to tell you and to talk to you about these things. Or maybe you haven't had the opportunity to sit down with yourself and reflect, maybe talk to a therapist and to learn about self-worth. Whatever the case is for you, this episode, we're going to talk about your worth as a woman, right? And how to know your worth and add tax. In other words, stand on business behind who you are. Before you can stand on business behind who you are, you got to know who you are first and whose you are. And for the most part, we already know whose we are, because I always knew whose I was. But sometimes, and there were moments where my self-worth was not up to par. Okay, I'm going to just be honest. And I believe that, and I'm so grateful for therapy and what it did for my life, because the world will have you thinking that your worth is based off of your following, your money, you having this baddie aesthetic, you going to Pilates, you getting your matcha. Let me tell you something. I don't care how many matchas you drink. That matcha will not heal the holes in your heart. That Pilates will not heal the holes in your heart. Okay, the clothes that you buy, the body that you have will not automatically give you the worth that you need to have as a woman. Okay, self-worth comes from making decisions, hard decisions that you really don't want to make, but you got to make them because it will make or break your life, right? Self-worth is learning how to trust yourself. Self-worth is not having to seek validation outside of yourself. Okay, that's the biggest one. And so I believe that if you continue to put your self-worth in items, in things, right, in your job, in the amount of money that you make, you will constantly be in a cycle, in a loop where you're constantly chasing the next thing because you are not fulfilled within yourself. Okay. And so I believe that therapy helped me understand and develop the importance of self-worth. See, the thing is, like I said in the last episode, your habits tell you, oh, I got to put my finger down. I'm getting passionate. But your habits tell a person all they need to know. Your boundaries tell a person all they need to know. Things that you choose to stay in or stay away from tell a person all they need to know. And so you can talk all day, and you can have all the things, and you can have the look, and you can have the aesthetic, but your worth speaks volumes, okay? Right? How you choose to show up as a woman, right? You don't even have to say a word. And I know that we should not judge a book by its cover, but this is the real world. You know what I'm saying? We should be getting to know people by actually experiencing them. But if people don't have the experience to go off of, then what? You know what I'm saying? And so I just want to be transparent so that way it can help you. All right. When I went to therapy, okay, when I first started going, obviously going to therapy helps you or reveals the holes that you have in your heart. right? Now, we all have holes in our heart, whether we want to admit it or not. The holes in your heart could be insecurities, your body image, family issues, your family dynamic. Did you have your father? Did you have your mother? Were they present in your life? Were they emotionally available? The men that you choose, the boyfriends that you had, all of those things play a huge part. And so throughout my therapy journey, I pretty much realized I was operating from a place of low self-worth or low self-esteem. Okay. I was making choices. I was choosing to be around people that did not serve me because there was a lack of self-worth. And it takes a person who really knows themselves and a person who is confident within themselves to admit that, because a lot of women don't want to admit it. There's so many women that literally can't stay out of the mirror because they got to constantly check to make sure they look okay. I literally take Pilates classes, you guys, or just workout classes in general, and there's mirrors all in the room. And this is not me judging. This is just an observation, because I used to do that same thing, constantly looking in the mirror, fixing your hair, checking yourself, asking people, do I look okay? Do I look okay? Do I look okay? Like, these are all things showing that there is a lack of self-worth. And so I just want to talk about how we get that so we can be the woman that God called us to be. The first step is being real. Okay. Am I confident? Like, when I go to bed at night, am I confident? Are you confident within yourself? Do you trust yourself? Or do you have to pick up the phone and call 15 people before you make a decision? Right? Are you constantly posting in a certain type of way on social media to get the validation? Right? If no one gives you a compliment, do you feel good or do you feel bad about yourself? If no man hollers at you when you go out with your friends, do you feel good or do you feel bad? How do you feel? And these are questions that you have to ask yourself to really get down to the nitty gritty. And for me, as I was, navigating therapy, I feel like things were getting brought up, letting me know that although I am human, I was operating out of a place of trauma. Okay. And that's normal, right? You are human if this is your experience as well, but you want to fix those things. You want to patch up those holes like I talked about in the last episode, so that way you're not operating from a place of lack. Okay. So the first point of today is that worth is built, not bought. Okay. Your worth is not something that you buy. It's something that you build. Okay. You cannot shop, date, work, or grind your way into self-worth. Money, titles, followers, luxury, none of it creates worth. Okay. Worth is built in private. Worth is built with the discipline, integrity, self-esteem, consistency. One thing that helped me increase my self-worth was going to the gym. Okay. Going to the gym, doing hard things, making hard decisions, even when I didn't feel like it, helped me increase the worth within myself. Because when you make hard decisions, when you show up for yourself, even when you don't feel like it, when you don't let your feelings override the facts and you still show up, that is how you build self-worth within yourself. When you keep the promises that you make to yourself, okay? If you say, I'm going to do this thing this month, I'm going to do this thing this week, and you do it, that is how you build self-worth. There is no amount of coffee that you can get from Starbucks. There's no amount of girls' nights. You can't go out enough times to fill that hole, to fill that void. You have to really look yourself in the mirror and really get deep. How am I pouring into myself in ways that are not monetary? Because I'm going to just be transparent, right? When I first started my lash business, right, I quit my job. I was a hiring manager at Victoria's Secret Pink. Quit my job. I became this quote unquote girl boss. Okay. I've been doing this for years now. And I believe that at the beginning, when I first started, I was young, and so I'm getting all of this cash very fast, and I'm buying all of the things. I'm buying the bags. I got the Benz. I got the apartment. Like, I'm traveling. I'm doing all of these things. But at the end of the day, I was not happy within myself. I was seeking validation from a man. I thought that I would get validation if I had said things. Now we got to be real, you guys. Literally, you can't shop your way into high self-esteem. You can literally be the most beautiful person in the world. Literally, it's usually the most beautiful women who have the lowest self-esteem, the lowest self-worth. And it's because the world has convinced us that if we buy the things, if we get the following, if we date a certain man, we are worthy. But those things don't make you worthy. Those things simply are just things. Okay. And you got to be that girl when everything is taken away from you. I'm telling you right now, if I just had a trash bag on me right now and I didn't have my car and I didn't have this and I didn't have that, I know based off of the discipline, the consistency, the self-respect that I have, I am that girl. Okay. Are you still that girl if God were to strip everything that you have away from you? I'm not going to say you're going to feel the best. I'm not saying it. Okay. If I literally only had a trash bag and I didn't have what I had, I wouldn't probably feel great about life. But at the end of the day, when I go to bed at night, I will still know who I am. But that takes self-work, right? That takes you maybe going to therapy. That takes you getting right with God. That takes you really looking within and saying, where are the holes in my heart? So I can stop buying my self-worth. So I can stop hanging with this certain type of person. So I can stop choosing this certain type of man or partner, because people can tell, you know what I'm saying? Especially, wolves in sheep clothing. Like, people can act like they're for you and all of that, but people can smell when you are insecure. People can smell. And not only can they smell it, usually we project it. Okay. We project it in our friendships, in our relationships, and the way that we just show up every day, the way that we show up online. And so it is important to look within so that way you can build yourself up from the inside out and not the outside in. Because if you think that you can put on your worth like a fresh pair of shoes, like a fresh pair of clothes, I'm here to tell you that is not going to do it for you. You will literally constantly find yourself in a loop. You guys, literally a couple years ago, before I started therapy, I used to constantly be shopping. I would be constantly over consuming to fill in this certain hole in my heart, And you can literally look cute. You can have the body. You can have the X, Y, and Z. But if you don't feel it within yourself, you're going to keep trying to fill that hole. You know what I'm saying? Or fill that void. And so when you know who you are without validation, the applause, you stop needing outside sources. You can literally, like I said, go to bed at night knowing I am it. I am her. And it is important to get to that place. And it took a while, right? It took lessons. It took relationships. It took me bumping my head. Everybody's not just running to therapy. Like, I don't want to act like I'm holier than thou just because I sat with someone or I sat with myself. But this has taken years work, right? And I'm still building. I'm still growing. Okay? Because just because you go to therapy or just because a certain trauma is revealed, that doesn't mean you just stop. That just means you are aware, right? And when you are aware, that allows you to make a choice, right? Before you are aware, you really don't make the choice. You don't even know you have the choice. You don't even know you have the option to say no, to walk away, to step away. You don't even feel that you're worthy of or you're enough, you know what I'm saying, to do said thing. And so my next point is knowing your worth changes what you tolerate. When you know your worth, your tolerance for nonsense drops immediately. If you know me, you know I have a no nonsense policy. My heart may be extremely big, but I'm not going for the nonsense. And when you stop going for nonsense, you stop over explaining, you stop over giving, you stop over performing, right? A lot of times when you lack the self-worth, you usually are trying to be a people pleaser, okay? Because you believe that if you please said people or person, they will validate me. They will make me feel like I'm enough, right? But when you know who you are without the explanation, without overgiving, without overperforming, when you know who you are, when you got to say no, Okay. That will let you know you are in a good spot, right? That is self-worth. You don't need to argue your value with anyone. You just simply walk away. You just simply remove access. Knowing your worth isn't loud, because a lot of times I think women, we do a lot of, "Arr, arr, arr, arr." I like to call that barking. You do not have to make a lot of noise when you know your worth. When you know your worth, you silently remove yourself. You don't need to over explain. You don't need to break anything down. Okay? Now, when it comes to friendships and things like that, I do believe that you owe people conversation. You do owe people grace, right? But when it comes to, relationships and things, it can get real tricky. And I'm not saying that your partners don't need grace either, but, okay, knowing your worth isn't loud. You don't need to scream who you are. You the best thing that a person ever had. You're the best ever. You the baddest. None of that matters. You don't have to scream that from the mountaintops if you really believe it, because your habits, your choices, your boundaries will reflect your self-worth. So you got to start asking yourself, is this person costing me my peace, my time, my self-respect? And this literally applies to friendships, jobs, especially dating, okay? If it is costing your peace, if you feel like you have to constantly over-explain who you are and over-explain your worth and over-explain what you got going on, you are probably in the wrong place and you probably need to walk away, okay? And I need you to understand that walking away is a skill. It is a skill that you have to develop over time. And when you are lacking self-worth, it's kind of hard for you to know when to walk away. You know what I'm saying? I think back to when I was younger. I stayed in situations and relationships way too long, right? But when you don't know your worth, you keep trying and trying and trying and trying. Usually you try to people please to convince people to treat you right, right? But you give people one good time. Fool me one time, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And so walking away doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you finally care enough about yourself, right? So whether you need to walk away from a job, whether you need to walk away from a friendship, whether you need to walk away from a relationship, knowing your worth means you're leaving even when you love the thing, even when you appreciate the thing, even when that thing served you in one season, but it really doesn't serve you now. You stop romanticizing potential and you start respecting reality, okay? When you know your worth, you respect reality. You don't just go off of what things shoulda, coulda, woulda, only if this person, only if they, only if. You stop saying only if when you know your worth, right? And again, we are human, right? So you don't just want to be rigid, right? Having self-worth doesn't mean you have to be rigid, but you got to know when it's time to go, right? When you have self-worth, when that self-worth is high, you know when it's time to go. And usually when you are connected with the Lord, that's why it's so important to have a relationship with God, because he will give you that discernment. Literally, the Holy Spirit will step into your life and give you those feelings, like the body keeps score. Literally, your body will reject the person. Your body won't feel right. You'll feel anxious when you show up to the job. You'll feel antsy when you're around these people or that person. You just won't feel good. And so you have to trust that. And when you have the confidence within yourself, you know when it's time to go. You know, okay, this isn't working for me anymore. This isn't serving me anymore. And if I walk away, that's not a reflection of that is a reflection of my self-worth. Because when you stay in a place that plays with you, when you stay in a place that is not serving you, when you stay in a place that is not appreciating you, you have to know when it's time to go. Especially at workplaces. Like, have you ever worked at a job where you have been working your butt off, but somebody else got the promotion before you did? Or have you ever been in a relationship where you've been doing all that you can, but the person still doesn't see you? Have you ever been in a friendship where you're doing all the things, but that person doesn't reciprocate that same energy? You gotta know when to walk away. And walking away does not mean you failed. Walking away just means you know your worth, you know who you are, you know what you deserve, and you making the decision for the team, for the person. Hey, I'm going to leave because this is not serving me. And I want you to have what's best fit for you. I want this job to have what's best fit for them. You know what I'm saying? And so staying too long is often rooted in fear and not love. When you know who you are, when you know whose you are, you know that whatever is meant for you, you're going to have. You're not going to stay in a situation for too long when you know there's more out there. Okay, there's more opportunities. This will not be my last. And I think when you're operating from a place of lack, you don't believe that there's much more. Now, I do believe, especially when it comes to relationships, social media will have you thinking that there's so many options out there. Good people are rare. Okay, solid people are rare. You know, so people are not as disposable as we may think, as the internet might make you feel, but it is very important to not operate from a place of lack, a place of fear, so that way you can get what God really has for you. Because what is for you, it might disappoint you sometimes. It might, hurt your feelings sometimes, but to a certain extent, your boundaries just won't be getting crossed like that, or your non-negotiables won't be getting crossed like that. Once your non-negotiables start getting crossed, that's when you know you are not in a good place. And this applies to all areas of your life. Okay? Growth requires grief. Okay? And you just have to grieve the version of life you thought you would have had if you would have stayed at this job, if you would have stayed with this person, if you would have stayed in this situation. You got to know when it's time to walk away. Adding tax, because like I said, know your worth and add tax. Adding tax means access is no longer free, okay? When you know your worth, access to you costs more, and not everyone can afford it, okay? The tax is boundaries, standards, and self-respect. Not everyone deserves closeness, emotional labor, or unlimited access, okay? And the tax isn't punishment. It's protection. Some people disappear when they realize you're no longer discounted. How many of you have experienced people, maybe that's family, maybe that's a job, I don't know, a partner, where once you start setting boundaries, things start getting tricky, okay? Once you start sticking up for yourself, people don't want to mess with you no more. Once you start speaking your truth, now they don't like you. 9 times out of 10, you are in the wrong place. And so it is very important to know your worth and add the tax, because the tax are your boundaries. The tax is your self-respect. Respect. Okay? The tax is your standards. Okay? And so this is all about alignment. What aligns with you respects you. What aligns with you doesn't go against your non-negotiables. What aligns with you doesn't have a problem when you say no. What aligns with you doesn't have a problem with you stepping away or making the best choice for yourself, And so the moment you stop giving yourself away for free is the moment your life upgrades, the moment that you realize your worth, the moment that you realize what you deserve. And sometimes, if you didn't grow up with someone telling you what you deserve, or you didn't grow up with that support system or that big sister, like I said, like, you might not know said things, or things might not be as clear to you. But that is why it is so important to constantly pray. God, reveal to me things that I need to work on. God, reveal to me the holes that are in my heart, because I don't want to operate from a place of lack. I want to operate from a place of overflow. We need to be operating from a place of fullness, wholeness, right? And there's no thing that you can buy. There's no person. There's no purse. There's no body. There's no nothing that can give you your self-worth. All of this comes from the work that you do within yourself. And like I said, I think that oftentimes us women are fooled, especially by social media. Literally, there's so many women. People can literally have thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers, and they might not be the most confident person in the room. You know what I'm saying? It's the person that knows their boundaries, knows their worth, stands up for themselves, speaks their truth confidently, boldly, with respect. Those are the people who have high self-worth. And so this might not be something that you build or that you get overnight, but I want to encourage you, if you are a woman, take a look within yourself and ask yourself, if nobody were to give me the validation that I needed, would I be okay? If I did not have these things on my body, would I be okay? If I didn't have the body yada yada, would I be okay? You got to know who you are and whose you are without any of those things, because things can be taken away, right? And a lot of times God will take things away from you if you start prioritizing those things over him, prioritizing those things over yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so you don't find your worth in 2026. You got to decide your worth in 2026. Don't let nobody tell you whose you are. Don't stay in places too long. If it is time for you to go, you must go. I've had to walk away from situations that I didn't want to, but because I know who I am, I know that my higher self, if I'm operating from a high place, I'm not going to sit in a place that's disrespecting me, that doesn't appreciate me, that doesn't value me, and I'm not going to over explain either. One thing about me, I might give you one, maybe two good times, two, because I'm empathetic. You know what I'm saying? But once it's like a constant thing, it's like, you know what? Maybe this is just confirmation from God that I am not where I belong. And again, it is okay to walk away from situations that don't serve you. It might be hard. And I want to leave you with this before we go. When you choose yourself, if you're not used to choosing yourself, you will constantly be bargaining with yourself. Like, did I make the right decision? Should I have stayed at that job a little bit longer? Should I have stayed with that person a little bit longer? The answer is no. The answer is no. Okay. Trust yourself. The biggest thing I learned is that when you have high self-worth, you trust yourself. You trust who you are because you built who you are. You didn't buy who you are. You didn't, your following didn't make you who you are. You know that you are that girl, that guy, because of the work that you put in and the work that you have done within yourself. And that doesn't mean that people can't tell you nothing and that you can't take feedback and that you can't take criticism. But if you know that you would love you, you know what I'm saying? That you would appreciate you. If you know that if the roles were switched, you are of value. You got to know, you got to trust yourself enough to walk away from any situation that does not serve you, that does not respect you, or that violates your non-negotiables. And so this was a quick episode. I hope that you were able to take something away from this, because I feel like the biggest thing right now is social media got us thinking that we can like drink the matcha, we can buy the vibration plates, we can like buy the LED mask, we can get our nails done, and that's going to make us feel worthy. You literally can do all of those things. You can literally go into debt buying these things and still not feel good enough about yourself. So I want to encourage you to pray, God, reveal to me the holes that are in my heart so that way I can start to operate from a place of fullness and wholeness and not lack, right? Because your holes in your heart will show, right? And people who are not good for you could possibly take advantage, right? And you don't want that. And so, like I said, I hope this episode was helpful. I hope that you walked away really looking at yourself like, because we are at the top of the year. Like I said in the first episode of 2026, this is going to be the best year yet, or this is going to be one of your best years. And with that being said, in order for this to be one of your best years, you also need to know your worth. And if you are lacking self-worth, you got to go out and dig for it. You got to go out and get it. You got to sit with yourself and do the hard things. You can do hard things, as uncomfortable as it may be. None of the work that I've done on myself was comfortable. Okay. Literally, it's been so lonely. I've had to isolate myself. I've had to step away from things because if it don't make sense, if it does not align, I have to walk away. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Now I Know podcast. And if you like this episode, don't forget to follow, comment, like, subscribe, share. Share this with one of your homegirls. Share this with somebody who needs it. I feel like this will help whoever you send it to. And yeah, let me know what you thought of today's episode. Love you guys. Thank you again for tuning in.